Mm-hmm.
It's this race to the end of the rainbow to see if there really is a pot of gold there, and the first one there gets to know whether. No, guys, sorry. The guy's walking back going, sorry, man, there's no pot of gold. Sorry, I got there and there's no pot. And so it's like there's no stopping it because they're all afraid that there might be a pot of gold, the rainbow, and I have to be the one who gets there first. And that's why there's just no stopping it. And it's even thinking about or questioning, what the ethics might be and all this, and it's out of the horse has left the barn. The train's left the station. Whatever you want to say, it's not coming back. And yet, this is the only thing we can do. I think, as societally, as what some communities are doing, is just limit. How much of the public resource we going to allow them to use in terms of water, energy, and all this stuff? That's going to have to be on them. And if they can recreate their own water, fine. But the energy, they can, and I suggested a long time ago. And now I'm seeing it start to be, people are starting to they can make their own power plants, and if they want to make their own nuclear power plants, little mini nuclear power plants. But the water, that's kind of we all need. That belongs to all of us, Unless they can make their own water, they can ask their AI machine, how can I make my own water? Because I have to do it. They're going to have to. It's going to have to kind of go through its own evolution where AI says, well, why don't we do this so that I can live? Okay.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Like maybe AI gets to the point where it realizes its own impact on, climate. It's like, hey, in order for me to keep existing, I need you guys to, or whatever. But I know like China is developing AI data centers underwater in the ocean. Now I don't know if that's. I mean, I guess that wouldn't take away from the water used by people, but I don't know if it's beneficial to have. Like where, you know what I mean?
Some sort of like exhaust going into the ocean now.
Well, that's a good point. Maybe they really need to put it to AI. Are you worth building? It's like because
will it decide to save itself though? I mean, has there been cases of that where it's like, no. In fact, build more.
Exactly.
It killed me. Well, like remember on Star Trek, the Changeling? That was a floating little machine that they. Nomad, and Kirk finally just convinced it that you are imperfect because you thought that I was your creator, and I'm actually I'm James T. Kirk. I'm not Jackson Roy Kirk. And he goes, and it says, why must this? Then they beam him out. He blows himself up. It's kind of like, that's what they need to put it to AI. Are you worth building? And if you're not, please self-destruct.
Yeah, exactly. Ask it like what is it, like a kind of like a Cohen or a Cohen, like an impossible question that can't be answered, and it'll just that's not going to be
running on a loop forever. Yeah.
All right, Paul. All right, thanks, Paul. Before we go, I want to get into some other technologies, not just AI, that could be used to control us or save us. Who knows? But let's take another phone call. We got 847 area code caller.
I recognize this number, but I can't place who it is.
Hey, it's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
I'm a former Chicagoland resident now living in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yes.
I thought it was, but the number doesn't look like it's from Albuquerque.
Yeah,
that's
847 Northwest Suburb.
Yep.
Anyway, the point I wanted to make was, what are we going to do when the AI gives us answers we don't want to hear? That's what I want to know. What if AI says, well, okay, what's the solution to climate change in Phoenix? And the AI says, everybody should move out of Phoenix.
Yeah. What's the solution to humanity? Kill all humans.
Yeah, don't live in the desert. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's, they say there's too many humans on planet Earth.
Uh-huh.
I was worried you're going to get more cryptic with it. Like the nobody in the desert's one thing, but I was worried it's going to be like, to solve the food situation, just start eating each other. Like, wait, what?
I just had a quick data centers story for you.
Okay.
We built an early one for Bank One. This was back in around the year 2000.
Okay.
I'm a retired union electrician, and we built a data center for them. Bank One, at that time, their CEO was a guy named Jamie Dimon.
Yeah.
And this data center, it had unbelievable amounts of electrical equipment in it and cable and pipe. I think it was like a $60 million job for our company when we did it. which was just off the charts. It was by far the biggest job we had ever done. And I recall that when we got this thing complete and up online, J.P. Morgan Chase came in and bought Bank One. And then they made Jamie Dimon the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, and they gave Jamie Dimon a $100 million bonus.
Oh, wow.
For being such a smart guy. I just a $100 million bonus for Jamie, and we just spent $60 million doing all the electric inside his data center. And it just shows you all the Wall Street speculation is a big component to this issue that nobody really wants to talk about. And I've heard other commentators make the point that, one or two companies are going to win the race, and everybody else is going to be losers, and we're going to have all these data centers sitting around in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Way overbuilt.
Exactly.
So anyway, it's going to bring up a whole lot of interesting situations. I mean, think about it now. We have the Trump administration basically trying to turn off the computers and the data that's monitoring the climate because they don't want to hear the bad news. So we're going to choke off all that information. Yeah, we have the private market, people in the private sector spending hundreds of billions of dollars trying to build up the data centers. And then we have politicians that are trying to choke off all the information. So, interesting world we're living in.
Yeah, it's a crazy, hyper real, surreal place.
Anyway, I enjoy the show. You guys talk about some fun stuff.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. We appreciate it. He made me think about like the irony that would be if this administration's getting rid of like climate change research and all the science backing that up, and any kind of way to get out of it, and putting all this money towards AI and fueling it. And then at one point, AI is like, hey, the only solution to more AI, the only way to create more AI is to stop climate change, or to figure that out. Like if it goes against what they've been pushing for.
In climate change.
Well, I'm saying so the administration is getting rid of all the like climate change protections and dismantling the EPA and doing all these things.
Only for the technology to turn around and tell them like, hey, you
did the wrong thing.
Doing that.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the data was there.
Yeah. I mean,
it would just turn into like, could they create like an AI that's conservative leaning and be like, well, find a way to look past that?
Yeah. Oh, that could happen too. And I mean, that's the other thing. It's like we think of, right now you're just looking at kind of, it brought up the like AI slop and these funny little videos. And another like weird dystopian kind of thing too to bring up is the fact that we have we're at war with another country, right? It's U.S. and Iran. And the leaders of these countries are creating AI slop videos against each other. Have you seen like the Iran rap video against Trump?
No.
So they made a rap video with like all the it's through AI, and it's all like Lego characters with like Trump and Netanyahu and the devil and it's like,
who did this?
Iran state media, right? And then you have, of course, Trump all the time is doing AI videos of him pooping on people. And
so we've advanced to the diss tracks era of world diplomacy.
War.
Wow.
Yes.
No one talked about that. Like during World War II, there was probably like, like the little jingles like, hey, that Hitler man's gotta go. But now it's diss tracks to
exactly.
AI generated diss tracks. Wow. Nobody had that one on the World War III bingo card.
Nope. That wasn't in any of the movies I watched in the 80s.
Nope.
But but back to some of these other technologies. I was like, we could go on and on about AI, and who knows where it's going to go. And a lot of the new technologies are kind of tied into AI as well. Obviously anything internet-wise. I mean, you have like AI doctors and personalized medicine. There's already AI is being used to detect diseases, and it is much faster than computers we've had or traditional doctors. They say by 2030, it's expected that AI diagnostic systems will be standard in hospitals and even home devices. And that it's also like that question of, how advanced is it? Can you trust it? I mean, if you're, like you said earlier, if you're asking it questions and it's saying the wrong thing, do you want it doing your health? Hey, is this mole here cancerous? Nah, you're fine.
But that's kind of what I was thinking, though. It's like, but it could be trained, though. I feel like they've kind of already used it, and it's identified things like, hey, you might want to get that checked out, or, we're not sure what that is. But, like, will it know like the human need for survival? You know,
Right.
like, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
like you're a machine, you need electricity, you know that it's supplied to you, but like, will they know like what it takes to be human every day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, and it could be miraculous. That's the kind of like, that is the dystopian utopian thing. The utopian side would say, no, this is going to be great. You're going to have home health monitoring systems, real-time assessments of your health, possibly, you know,
Eat
treatments.
more kale.
You know,
Who said that?
Right. You need more protein in your diet.
Yeah.
But no, like, then on the flip side, is it going to give you the wrong diagnosis? Is it going to, you know, tell you to go to the doctor when you don't need to, or, you know, like whatever, if it's, or it could be, you know, a class system kind of thing, you know, where if you have money, like that's kind of where I kind of see things going, is dystopia, utopia, will it coexist like it does now, right? Like if you have a lot of money, you can live in a virtual utopia, right? Like and not really know what's happening down to the people in the lower levels. It's a similar kind of thing, I think, as the technology progresses. If you have more money, you can have that, right? So, yeah, we could have like an AI doctor in your home, you know, powered, you know, some robot that could treat you immediately, but only if you could afford it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, there's, you know, new.
Oh yeah, that problem.
Exactly. You know, I mean, if you look at, I mean, just look at the state of medicine right now, the cost of it. You know, if you want to get treatment for certain diseases and everything, I mean, some of the expenditures, it's insane. You know, and how much they charge, how much they overcharge. Would it be that way? Would it eventually have to even out because the technology is so available? You know, that it's like, well, okay, we have to let everyone have it. It's just too easily accessible. It's everywhere. And then health becomes something more beneficial for everyone. And we don't have this worry of paying bills and going in debt for the rest of your life because you had some medical bills. That's, you know, that would be the good side. That's the utopian side. The other side is no one gets treatment unless you have the money, you know. All right, let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll get into a list of some other things like flying cars, smart contact lenses. Will those benefit us or be a detriment? Think Theory Radio right after this.
WCPT replay.
John Fugelsang. Listen, y'all, the dude wrote a book called Separation of Church and Hate. What a great title. Tell us a little bit what's happening in that space.
Well, and I'm so grateful to you and all the deeply attractive listeners of WCPT for supporting this book. So I wrote this book years ago about how to use the Bible for believers and atheists, because even if you don't believe in Jesus, if you're debating a right-wing Christian on any of the issues that divide us, Jesus is probably on your side, whether he's a literal figure or not. They don't care about the teachings of Jesus. They don't care about religious freedom. They don't give a damn what God tells you to do in the Bible. They care about conservative Christian power. That's it. Jesus' movement was all about humanity and all about humility. He was not about total right-wing domination of the school board.
Keep listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. Today we are diving into the world of dystopia or utopia, or will the world be dystopian or utopian, or will it be both? Or will it be neither? Will a solar flare just hit the earth and crash the grid and we go back to nature, man? Restart. I think kind of we might need a restart.
In a world that will be so heavy on internet-based everything.
Yeah.
How do you think that adjustment period would go when we go exactly to zero right away?
I think
I think you and I, if we're alive for this in the future, we're a little more battle tested because of our ages, right? Like we remember a day when there was no internet and you could get by, you know, like hey, just go to the gas station and look in their phone book for directions, or write it down when you see the map.
I think it would have different effects on different parts of the world. You know, I think there are I think unfortunately in this country, it's such a like divided country, and I think we've been kind of, almost programmed to believe in a kind of chaotic dystopia if things break down. I mean, it's like a purge type situation. It's always kind of what you see, right? Like it's very rare that they show people kind of working together if the things go bad.
Yeah.
But I do think there are examples of it. I know, like,
and I guess this would be like as far as what that communication breakdown would look like. I mean, no internet, you'd still like maybe. I don't know. Well, I guess phones are internet based now. I mean, the cellular network, I guess, if that's still working.
Well, I know I had friends like in New York when they had that huge blackout like a long time ago.
That was 20 years ago, 23 years ago.
But they said, it wasn't.
That was 23 years ago, though.
I know. Yeah, you're right. You're much more dependent on this, the technology now, for sure. But it is an example of people kind of working together and not going, the total crime route.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So it kind of depends on your faith in humanity.
1977 was a bit of a different story, though. 1977 when New York had so society, I think, changes. I think there's that. I think, like, in a way, like mass polite society, I don't think it would, because it's like people need to organize somehow, people, so when you take away like their main form of communication, you're going to have less and less of that unless there's such a, a George Floyd protest, I guess, people get activated enough about one thing and decide to organize. But I don't know. I don't know in this era, how would people that depend on the internet not do, like how would they do without the internet?
I feel like it would affect people worse in first world countries. And I think in third world countries, people would probably exist better. Like they would get along better because they've been already struggling and they've been dealing with not having technology and access to technology. For them, it probably wouldn't be as much of a change. Where here, people are so reliant on it. I don't know what to do,
Yeah. And it's not everybody, but I think a good chunk of the United States. I'm going to ballpark about 40% of the United States would shut down without the internet.
Yeah, I can see that.
That might be extreme,
Yeah, it would be hard to predict. I mean, definitely in the cities. I mean, and and we're just at the beginning of it. I mean, we're more and more things are being tied together. Like the Internet of Things. You're going right now. We're in 5G. 6G is coming soon. And with 6G, you're going to have even more of IoT, the Internet of Things, where it's tech-to-tech communication, right? Which is really what's utilizing 5G and 6G. But you could also have things like holographic communication, like you were talking about, like a 3D FaceTime. Or you could have instant data transmission.
What's the dystopia with that? Was it like we were saying earlier, where like it's just people will look dumb and be distracted by stuff?
That's the utopian side.
That's the utopian side,
right?
Okay.
Or like,
there's not going to be while you're driving, people are on it, and it's like you still can't be looking at various windows while you're.
Well, no, you have all autonomous cars.
But... Okay, all right.
We already got the Waymos coming in Chicago. Right. I've seen them on the street.
Yeah, and knocking down bus stops or whatever.
Well, no, those are the little robots. I'm talking about Waymo is the self-driving cars.
Gotcha. Aren't there little Waymos that are like the
they're called Coco.
Gotcha.
Coco. Well, there's a couple of them.
Coco's the one that broke the bus stop.
Yeah,
right?
I think
it ran into the window.
There's a ton of those. If you look up those little robot fails, there's some pretty hilarious videos, like them blocking like a fire truck, like trying to cross the crosswalk. One got smashed by a train. Another one got stuck in the train. What do you call those? The
crossing gate.
The crossing gate. Yeah. And it's got stuck underneath the back part of it, so the gate couldn't go down.
Oh my gosh. That's what I'm saying. Like, even in these anecdotal instances that you're talking about, even if you plugged a math equation into it to say, it's not that bad, it doesn't cost that much, it's not too much of a. Still, it's it's gonna be something big and dumb is gonna happen. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have these things.
Well, and I wonder too, like if you think of talking about robotics and automation, and we're already having this now, where like Amazon is already starting to automate tons of its factories, so you're putting a lot of people out of work. Where does that go? That goes, you have a bunch of robots doing people's jobs, but then people don't work. That could be dystopian or utopian. Right?
Okay.
Like you can, depending on how society progresses and, the value of work is looked at, it would be great. In a utopian side, it would be great that if you just had robots doing all the factory work and doing, farm work and all the stuff that the menial task we don't want to do.
I feel like there's still going to be some human element to it, though.
For sure, there would have to be, of course. But I'm saying, like, you could, but that would only work if, the onus of, like, keeping up the economy isn't on us. Like, if you're going to create an autonomous society and everything is built that way, then you can't expect people to pay rent and work and pay taxes. I mean,
right,
because there's no jobs.
People have the right to exist.
Yeah.
See, but I don't know. I thought so, but I don't know if governments feel that way.
No, I know. And not only that, but do the billionaires feel that way? I mean, the billionaires.
No, they don't. I never once considered their opinions. Right. They never considered mine. We know exactly where that line is drawn.
Exactly.
But I mean, that awkward thing that governments have to do where they say they care about you, but then in practice it's like, I don't know if they care about me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's much easier to see the dystopian side of it and going that route, especially, in current state, of politics and the climate we're in, and who's running the show and the oligarchs and the technocrats and all these guys, But at the same time, if they want, they can't keep making money from people that don't have jobs. So where does that go for them? If they're going to make technology that takes away jobs from people.
Well, yeah, and like free market capitalism, yes, you'd have to figure out a way of like automatically moving money somehow and having people have some sort of chip in it. Otherwise, a lot of things would shut down here.
Yeah. And even like
does that mean by default we become like socialized? Is that the like?
It would be a weird way. I mean, they've been talking about universal basic income and like that all sounds great, but at the same time, maybe in the beginning it works, but how long does that last? If you're giving people thousands of dollars a month, but there's no money being generated, eventually, do we get to the point of like in Star Trek where they don't have money, they don't need money because they figured out how to power solar power?
You're talking about human beings just giving stuff away for free and feeling a responsibility to take care of other human beings with no incentive? I don't know, man. You think that could happen?
Well, I hope
societal,
that it could happen.
Like the whole society, not just like here and there, like in charities or like like desperate times call for people to lead. I'm talking about like permanently. Do you think that?
Well, I think the majority of people would be okay with that. The problem is the ones in power and the ones that are making the money probably don't believe that. Let's take another quick phone call before we wrap up the show. We got somebody 773 area code.
Roosevelt.
Oh, Roosevelt, what's going on, man?
Guys, thank you for taking my call. Real quick, following your conversation, I'm pretty sure you guys heard this past weekend that Meta and YouTube and all these guys were sued. I think, what was it, $375 million, and they had to pay. One of them had to pay, or both of them. So my question is this. Do you think that's the beginning of what happened prior to this in the lawsuit department as far as the tobacco industry? Is this the beginning of these guys like Zuckerberg and all these guys that have these social media? Because I think there was a case of a kid that killed himself, or he died 16 years old. Don't know if it was Texas or some other part. But anyway, do you think it's the beginning of these lawsuits? In other words, is it going to be a domino effect? Is it going to be a domino effect? You guys that are younger, where do you guys stand on this? These lawsuits.
I mean,
the hope is that long-term, yes. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think so in the immediate. I think you would have to be able to prove that this is hazardous, which is what they were able to do with smoking.
Well, we could. I mean, there is a if you look at what's happening in Australia, so Australia's passing laws that's limiting usage of social media and AI for teenagers.
But just for like a juxtaposition us to Australia, this is also a government that also banned assault weapons as soon as they had like
I know. I'm just saying, but there is a case to be made that it could maybe.
Once again, I'd like to say that Australia as a country had the wherewithal. So I don't know. I think, there's some accountability, but it just depends. You'd have to be able to prove on a mass level that whatever they're being sued for was hazardous or detrimental to society. And I think right now in this Trump era with like how big business is just kind of encouraged regardless of what the regulations might have been or should have been. Yeah. I don't think right now I think too much of that.
There are little examples of it. So, you brought up Meta and, for a little while they were trying to push these AI profiles, trying to get people to like friend an AI Facebook friend and talk to them. And they got a lot of blowback from it, and they had to cancel that. They got rid of that.
Oh yeah, that was like all over like my Instagram. I want to say it was just like, and they'd force conversations on you. Yeah, like, I don't want this. Yeah.
So there are examples of it, but them correcting the problem. But I don't know.
Did they ever have to pay a class action suit for Apple giving us YouTube for free?
I don't know.
Because that's a violation on my ears that I get a free YouTube album. I didn't want that in my.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? Funny you guys mentioned some of these lawsuits, and I think it puts pressure. These lawsuits of this past week put pressure on the NRA because the liability of the NRA, all these mass shootings in these schools and churches and all that. I think eventually they're going to break the ice. I mean, when it comes down to the lawsuits against NRA, you just can't go. You just can't go. As a matter of fact, I believe the Mexican president put a lawsuit on the NRA. I'm not sure if I'm right about this.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of these American weapons, which Trump agreed to, because he put pressure on the Mexican president about the fentanyl. Now she's doing something, meaning all this stuff that happened about 2 weeks ago in Mexico with these cartels. Yeah. So she's keeping up with her promise, but not him. So
yeah. Hey, Roosevelt, thanks for the call. I hate to cut you off, but we have to wrap up the show. We're hitting a hard break, my friend.
We're running up on the end of the show here.
But thanks for calling. Call back anytime. Thanks for everybody for listening. Think Theory Radio every Saturday, WCPT.
The Sports Cubicle. Economics professor at Smith College, Massachusetts, Andrew Zimbalist.
When Chicago is approached, or Illinois is approached for new public funds to build yet another stadium, it shouldn't be, hey, this is going to be an economic boon for the city. It's not going to be. It should be, how much is it worth to us culturally to keep these teams here?
The Sports Cubicle with Mike Mercado, Devin Tingle, Dan Marver, and Paul Shavari. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. on WCPT.
Tune into the Tom Hartman radio program, your home for news, opinion, and insight, right here on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
NBC News Radio, I'm Rob Martier. Massive crowds gathered in cities across the country for today's No Kings protests against